Kiddush Club is staring, it's bothering my sermon, nobody's here. So Rabbi, we're really attached to our Kiddush Club. So the Rabbi says, look, I don't know what to say, we got to do something here. He says, you know what, we're going to make a contest. On Sunday we're going to go out, the heads of the community and Rabbi, and we're going to make a contest. Whoever kills the deer first wins. If you win, we'll give up the Kiddush Club, and if we win, we keep our Kiddush Club. So they went out on Sunday, the Rabbi with the heads of the Kehillah, and they went out, and they spot the deer, and they shoot, bump, 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 everybody's shooting, and the deer falls. There's a big problem. The Rabbi says, I got him. And the Kehillah says, no, we got him. So what are you going to do? So they says, we'll make an autopsy on the deer. They check, and the bullet to the head killed the deer. So the Rabbi says, it's mine. I got him. He says, no, how do you know the bullet to the head was the one that killed the deer? So you don't understand. It went in one ear and went out the other. It's mine. I'm going to talk to you from the heart, and I hope it goes into your heart. These are words about heart to heart. Very important subject. And I really thank the Rosh Yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva. I can't believe what a yeshiva this is. The first minute I met the Rosh Yeshiva, I saw his kochas and nefesh. I was wondering what kind of yeshiva it has. It's amazing, amazing, man. I really appreciate this opportunity. And your Rosh Yeshiva is, he has a dual purpose in the world. He's got more than a dual purpose. He's a clinical psychologist. And he sees people, I also see people, I'm a rabbi slash life coach. That's my job. And I help people live good lives. And you know, life's a kind of funny thing. We, especially when we're young, we're trying to figure out our priorities, how we're going to succeed in life. And it's kind of a funny thing that even we learn Chumash, we learn Halacha, we learn Gemara. It's not always clear, you know. People don't always get their priorities straight. So I like to share with people one of my favorite things to send people a link to a 75-year study where they literally took 700 Harvard undergrads in the beginning of when they entered in Harvard, not your regular guys, and they literally studied them for 75 years, the longest study of human life possible. Basically, some of them are still alive in their 90s. In the beginning, they asked them, what is your goals? And obviously, we can all know what the first goal of any regular, normal person is. Not a yid, but a regular, normal person. And the first thing that people, their priorities is money. The second is fame, power, or the important. After 75 years of studying them, literally scanning their brains, medical records, anything you can imagine, the bottom line is that the thing that makes people successful, happy, healthy, what is it? Good relationships. It's an amazing, it's a beautiful thing to listen to. I can't do it justice because I want to talk further about this more Jewish idea, more kashur to our parsha. But what's interesting is that even in this Givaldic study, where they clearly map out that the most important thing is good relationships, they also point out that it's also the most difficult thing. And this is the klal, this is the general rule. Where there are problems, there are opportunities. Unfortunately, many people, when they come up with a problem, they do one of two mistakes. One is to ignore the problem, like you just want to get around it. You have a difficult relationship with somebody, you have a difficult parent, you have a difficult brother, you have a difficult roommate, just like ignore it, like drop it. And the other mistake is to fight it. The klal is that Hashem is running the show. He put that person in your life. And the tikkun, the rectification, the right way is to respond. To believe that everything that's in front of me is put in front of me by HaKadosh Baruch. So I want to talk to you today about a couple difficult relationships. We're talking now about the stories of Yosef and his brothers. And really the story of Yosef and his brothers is really an offshoot of another difficult relationship, Yaakov and Esau. Two brothers want to kill each other. I mean, you can't get anything more ridiculous than that. What can we learn from these relationships? So, one thing that's important for us to understand as human beings is that we are wired for connection. Why do relationships produce a happier, healthier life? Because that's what we're wired for. We're wired to connect with people. Unfortunately, we see in the world that there's a lot of separations. Hearts aren't. I was speaking to on Shabbos to a Lubavitch minion, and I was talking about this subject. And Baruch Hashem, there are people that are interested in connecting with people. And the Gabbai of the shul told me that the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, why is a hug such an amazing way of connecting with a person? Because when a person hugs another person, he puts his heart to the other person's heart, but then he puts his arms around it, as if to say, not only do I accept your good points, but I even love your back. I love all of you. And interestingly enough, when Yaakov sends his gifts to Esau, he wants to find chen, which is really the secret formula of good relationships. Rabbi Nachman reveals that chen is a code word. The first Rashi where it says that Yaakov wanted to find chen in Esau's eye, Rashi says very deep, I am shalom with you. I'm like shalom with all of you. And I want your love. That's what it says in Rosh Mamash. That's a hug. Unfortunately, we as human beings typically view a person externally. We look at people externally, and therefore, because everyone's so different, therefore, we tend to say, this person's different than me. Another teacher, Reb Nachman, that focuses on the bird, the raven. Why is the raven the cruelest, the symbol of cruelty in the world? The Metzudah says on the pasuk we say every day in the Hallelujah, that when the raven chick is born, hatched, she's white, the mother looks at her and says, I can't relate to you. You're not mine. And therefore she doesn't feed him. It's an amazing idea. When a person looks at another person and he doesn't see that Lamaisa, we're all one, our souls are hewed out of the supernal soul, then we can't connect with the person. And therefore the Baal Tanya teaches in the 32nd chapter of Tanya that the derech to the mitzvah, the all-inclusive mitzvah, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, is to start to view yourself as a soul. But not just a soul in exile. And to start to have compassion on yourself. Have compassion on yourself. Because you are, as if to say, alone in exile. But what? Every person in this room is the same exact soul. And we're all holding hands, walking through this exile. We're all one. We're all in this world together. The Iker Bracha comes from viewing people as one. Unfortunately, let's say fortunately, Yaakov made a gewaltic tikkun. The Zohar talks about the tikkun of Yaakov's encounter with Esau. He literally pushed his button. He found chen in his eyes. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there's a machlokes, whether Esau kissed Yaakov with a leiv shalem or not. Amar Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's a halacha. Esau hates Yaakov. You know what that means, a halacha? It means it's like stamped in the world. He hates him. All of a sudden, can you imagine if you had a formula, if you had the way to do this, to get into another person? He kissed him with the whole heart. Why specifically Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? I have a klal from my Rebbe, just like it says by the Avturech T'mocho, Amar Rabbi Akiva. Rashi chose to say Rabbi Akiva because he wants to tell you, he wants to point you a finger at Rabbi Akiva. There's a message there. So too with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Why does Rashi bring his name when it comes to Esau kissing Yaakov? Because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, like Yaakov Avinu, was a tikkun for Adam Rishon. He was a tzaddik. It was bechinas kol. He could see the good in every person. The darimala, the darimata. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was a person who was connected to all aspects of the creation at all moments. My favorite line from the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, in the last day of his life, Ani leDodi, the alai tishukaso. I am to my beloved, and why is he so crazy about me? Begin kach. Chol yomai, all the days that I was bound up, connected, connection. I was connected to this world. In theory, this world means that I was physical, I was eating, I was sleeping, and therefore, in theory, I was cut off from Hashem. I was ketarna b'chad ketira. I was connected in one connection with Hashem. I never was separated. I was never in the alma de piruta, the world of separation. And therefore, we find that on the last day of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, thousands of people came to be with him. And on every Lag BaOmer, hundreds of thousands of people come. But not just that, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai brought down Hashem and the whole Palmalia Lamala, the secret of magnetism, the secret of kesher, of connection, is when a person sees the panemius. And therefore the brothers, when they looked at Yosef, even though Yosef was an extension of Yaakov, at that moment, at that point in his life, Yosef, Kiviyochel, if we can say so, was external, chitzoni. He was very connected to his multicolored coat. He was very connected with his payas, very connected with twirling his payas. And therefore, al pisod, the brothers stripped him of his coat. And Rashi says an amazing thing. The brothers couldn't talk to Yosef b'shalom. And Rashi says, in the midst of their genai is their shvach. They couldn't fake it. They couldn't talk to Yosef too forked. They understood that they didn't like him and they were going to just tell him to his face. In the end of the whole story, when Yosef leaves his coat by Eshes Potiphar, he makes a gavaltic tikkun, he becomes a panimi, he becomes a tzaddik, and therefore when he reveals himself to his brothers, he says, Ki pi medaber elechem, my mouth is speaking you. Rashi says, Chazal say, Ki pi kain libi, I am whole. My heart and my externals are one. We'll end with the story. A killer story. A great story. A great story. I'm telling you, this story hopefully will etch the ideas in your mind and your hearts. Great tzaddik, Mermi Premis Lav. He had open Ruach HaKodesh as a child. And that's a very difficult thing. And it made kind of problems for him. And he had a lot of hisnagdus. A lot. One of his misnagdim was the other tzaddik, Yehuda Mistatri. Unknowingly, somebody had a baby, and was mechabed, one to be the sandik and the other to be the moab. and send one wagon to pick them up at the same time. First they picked it, and the second one to get in the wagon was Rabbi Merla, premise line. When he entered the wagon, Rabbi Yehuda turned his face like this to the wall, not to look at it. Whoa. That's unexpectedly his bar plukta, the person that he dislikes the most in the world, comes into the wagon. He can't stand him. What do? You ignore him. You ignore him. So what does Reb Meir do? Reb Meir says, Meir wants to tell you a story. And then he's looking at the wall. He doesn't want. If he could, he would put earplugs in. iPods. Turn up the volume. I don't want to hear your story. Reb Meir takes him back to the Spanish Inquisition, where unfortunately there were gezeras against the Jewish people. They either had to give up their religion or leave. There was a Yid who was very, very high up in the government, very powerful, very rich. He didn't want to give up his Olam Hazeh. So what did he do? He became a Marana. What does that mean? He practiced Yiddishkeit under the table. Some people do that today. They practice Yiddishkeit under the table. But how long can it last? He went through life, and it came time for him to leave the world. He's on his deathbed. He's 90 years old. And what do the Goyim do before they leave the world? So the priest comes for confession, and all of the families around, and in comes the priest. Now the priest was, whoa, he's dressed in these black garbs, and this big, I don't even want to say what was on his chest, swinging back and forth, And when he walks in the room, and all the relatives are there, what does this poor guy do on his deathbed? He turns his face to the wall like this. This is the story that Meir's telling to his friend who's got his face to the wall. He's got his face to the wall. I don't want to look at this guy. He's the worst. The last thing in the world this poor Jew wants is to see the priest before he dies. Let me die in peace. I'd die with the coma. So when he turns his face to the wall, all the people go, whoa, you don't do that, that's not nice. The priest is here. So the priest understands what's going on, and he says to everyone, please leave. He wants to make confession alone, private. So everyone goes out, they lock the door. He's alone with this Comer, this priest. Oh God, this is even worse than before. Next thing you know, you can't believe this is a crazy story. He starts to take off his clothes. Oh God, this is weird. Rabbi, so this is like a modern day story. You're talking, no. Why is he taking off his clothes? From under his cloak, he pulls out his tzitzis. And he says the following words. Rabbi, Rabbi Yid, you're a Yid and I'm a Yid. Let's say Shema Yisrael together. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We're all one soul. Chelek Elokai Mima'al. There could be external differences. You might wear a hat like that, and you might not even wear a hat. You might not even be from. But we all have a soul. And if Yaakov could penetrate the thickness of Esav and get through to him, his brother wanted to kill him, we can deal with anybody in the world. Remember, the klal, problems are opportunities. If there's a problematic person in your life, whether it's your parent, whether it's your brother, or whether it's your mashgiach, and I won't say the Rosh Yeshiva because I know the Rosh Yeshiva is not a problem. Baruch Hashem. We should understand that this person is in our lives because it's a gewaltic tikkun, gewaltic opportunities. You hear what's on, may it be Hashem's will that we find grace in the eyes of all that see us, and through this mitzvah of Avta L'Recha K'mocha, Yizoche to the final Kollel. Amen. Amen.